Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben's award-winning podcast, as voted by Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts, listen back to all our previous episodes, sit back, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben. This is Tuesday's episode. I hope you're all well. These are going to start going out on YouTube as well pretty soon, as we've worked out how to get them onto our YouTube channel. So if you're not following us on YouTube, make sure you follow Gardening with Ben, as you'll be able to actually put them on there if you've not got a podcast platform, but obviously you have. That's why you've been listening to it. But yeah, if you're a new follower, make sure you subscribe to this page so that you get notified when new podcasts come up. And at the moment, they're coming up every single day. So aren't you lucky? They're nice and short and sweet so that you can listen to them before you go to work, or as you're getting ready, or when you're in the allotment. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about broad beans. As you may want to start growing some stuff now. A lot of people don't grow stuff through winter as they feel like it's too cold down at the allotment. They don't want to be going down there. I'm one of them. I don't go down to the allotment much during the winter time. I tend to just use it as a time for maintenance and tidying things up and getting it all ready for the year ahead. But I have started sowing some things through winter. Hence I've planted my Christmas potatoes. I've planted my garlic, and I'm going to be looking at growing some broad beans. Now, you can sow your broad beans in springtime, or you can sow them now. They are actually very hardy, and they can survive the snow and the frost, and there's benefits to growing them now rather than later on. One of the main benefits of growing your broad beans now is that they will be ready to harvest before the black flies start to appear on them. If you've sown them in the springtime in the past, you'll notice broad beans get absolutely covered in black fly. Black fly seem to attract to the broad beans. It must be something about them that they love so much, the smell or something that they enjoy on it, that attracts them to just cover them in swarms. They don't always destroy your plants, but you just don't want to see the black fly covering your broad beans. So if you sow them now, you will not get the black fly on them. So that is one of the main successes in growing them now. So what you can do, you can sow them into the ground where you want to grow them, or you can grow them in pots and then plant them out once they've sprouted. I tend to go for planting them in pots first because we have a lot of trouble with squirrels down on our plot, and they tend to get anything that you plant straight into the ground. So it's good for, if you're starting them off in pots, for them to become established, grow well, get bigger, and then you can plant them out when they're ready. But obviously if you're planting them in the ground straight away, they'll be hardy straight away. They'll get used to the cold temperatures. You don't shock them when you plant them outside. So there's different ways you can try growing broad beans. Now obviously you'll think, well, the snow will probably kill them off and the frost, but no, they are pretty tough, and there's a particular couple of varieties that you can try growing, which are especially for growing around this time, and they are called Aqua Dulce Claudia and the Sutton. So there's two varieties there what you can try growing, and they are suitable for the winter winds what you get down on the plot, because it's very windy down on the plots at this time of year, and the wind will certainly be picking up through the winter time. So you can sow them all now, but make sure when you're sowing them into the ground, if you're sowing them, you don't have to leave the specified distance between them. I just usually leave like about 6 or 7 inches between each one and get a nice full row of them growing. but remember that you will need to put some netting or something behind them, because you'll need to fasten them to something, because they become too top heavy, and when they become too top heavy they'll bend over and they'll snap, and you'll just lose all your plants. So get some chicken wire, put that behind them before they start growing, and then sow them in rows in the ground. But if you're growing them in pots, you can sow them all in the pots individually, and then once they are about 10 centimetres tall, that's when you can plant them out into the ground. But yep, make sure you do stake them, because like I said, they'll just topple over and snap and you'll lose the beans, because broad beans are very heavy. They're not like peas. Obviously broad beans are a lot bigger, and once they are ready then you will shell them all from out of the pods, and you will be able to have them with your Sunday dinner. Now, growing them now means that they will be ready around May time, whereas if you plant them in springtime, they'll be ready around July time. So if you're wanting to, you could always do 2 crops. You could start some off now so that they're ready for May time, one of your first harvests, and then you'll be able to pick another harvest later on in July. So if you're wanting a bumper crop of vegetables, start 2 lots off. Start some off now, let me know how you get on, and then start some off again in the springtime. I'm tempted to try that actually. I'm thinking I might give it a try. So I'm going to get some broad beans, we're going to film it, we're going to sow them, and we're going to see how they actually get on growing them now. But again, like I said, I need to protect them from the pesky squirrels, because they do like to eat everything. I've just planted all my tulip bulbs this week, and you know how much tulip bulbs cost. They're not cheap at all, and I want to see if they don't dig them up, because I don't want to lose my tulips. I'm going to be getting a load more daffodil bulbs this week, and I'm thinking about getting some snowdrops. I've not got any snowdrops growing on my allotment yet, so I'm tempted, but there's a lot of too much leaf rather than actual flower, so I'm going to be having a look to see whether to grow snowdrops or not. Obviously they do multiply and you can get too many, so we'll have to see how we get on. So this has been a little podcast talking about broad beans. So that is one of the main things that you can be sowing this time of year for the autumn. Make sure you go for the winter hardy varieties if you are growing them now, which I mentioned earlier. Don't go for the summer varieties or the spring varieties, go for the winter hardy varieties. And usually on the packet it'll tell you when you can actually plant them, so you'll know if they're winter hardy or not when you buy them. So don't order them online, just go to a garden centre and you'll be able to see the ones that say sow from like October to November time now. So let me know how you get on, let me know if you sow some yourself, send me a message on Facebook or Instagram if you're going to be doing some yourself, and yeah, get sharing them pictures. So thanks for listening to today's episode. As always, remember, keep gardening, keep smiling, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Gardening with Ben. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. Feel free to share them on your Instagram stories so that it spreads the word about my podcast and we get lots more listeners. Feel free to check out my social media sites, Facebook and Instagram as well, Gardening with Ben, and also my YouTube channel, to stay up to date with all my handy videos, how-to videos, and sharing my tips and advice. And feel free to check the link as well in the description for my Gardening with Ben t-shirts. Lots of funny gardening design t-shirts in there for you to purchase at great prices too. So thanks again, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening.